The storm arrived with a fury no one expected. It was as if nature had unleashed its full power, catching everyone off guard. It swept across the nation, leaving a blanket of white in its wake. The transformation was both beautiful and terrifying. The USA was in the grip of an epic blizzard, one for the record books. It was a storm that would be remembered for generations. From bustling cities to quiet towns, everything was buried under a thick layer of snow. Life as people knew it came to a halt. This wasn't just a few inches of snow, it was a monumental accumulation that defied expectations. This was a blizzard of unprecedented proportions. The sheer intensity of the snowfall was staggering. The snow fell relentlessly, piling up higher and higher. It seemed like it would never stop. It quickly overwhelmed everything in its path. Streets, homes, and vehicles were all swallowed by the relentless snow. Homes, cars, entire streets vanished under the white onslaught. The landscape was unrecognizable. The sheer scale of the storm was breathtaking. It was a sight to behold, yet filled with a sense of dread. It stretched from the Midwest to the East Coast, blanketing a huge swath of the country in snow. The reach of the storm was vast. Millions of people were caught in the blizzard's path. They faced a daunting challenge just to navigate their daily lives. They woke up to a world transformed, unrecognizable under the heavy snow. It was a new, harsh reality. This wasn't the picture-perfect snow day of holidays past. It was a severe and unyielding storm. This was a storm of a different breed, one that tested the resilience of everyone in its path. It brought with it a sense of awe, but also a growing fear. The power of nature was on full display. The snow was relentless, the cold biting, and the world outside had ground to a standstill. It was a moment frozen in time. The storm hit with a vengeance, paralyzing daily life in an instant. The streets, once bustling with activity, were now eerily quiet. Schools and businesses shut down, their usual bustle replaced by an eerie silence. The vibrant energy of the city was replaced by a stillness that felt almost surreal. The familiar rhythm of the city, the constant hum of activity was gone. It was as if time itself had paused. All that remained was the sound of the wind howling and the snow falling relentlessly. The relentless storm showed no signs of stopping. Roads became impassable, transformed into treacherous stretches of ice and snow. Travel was no longer an option. Cars were abandoned where they stood, swallowed by the ever-growing drifts. The snow buried everything in its path. Public transportation ground to a halt, leaving commuters stranded and worried. The usual lifelines of the city were severed. The storm brought with it a bone-chilling cold that seeped into everything. It was a cold that penetrated even the warmest of shelters. The air itself seemed to crackle with the intensity of the freeze. Every breath felt like inhaling shards of ice. Power outages became a growing concern as the weight of the snow brought down power lines, plunging homes and businesses into darkness. The warmth of light and heat was a distant memory. This was a day when everything froze, not just the landscape but the very rhythm of life itself. The world was encased in a silent, icy grip. The unexpected ferocity of the blizzard caught everyone off guard, leaving them to grapple with the immediate challenges of staying warm, safe, and connected in a world suddenly turned upside down. It was a day that would be remembered for its sheer intensity and the way it brought life to a standstill. The familiar landmarks of towns and cities vanished beneath the snow. Streets and sidewalks disappeared under a continuous white expanse. Cars were reduced to mere bumps in the snowdrifts, their outlines barely visible. The world had been reshaped, sculpted by the relentless hand of the blizzard. The sheer volume of snow was staggering. Snowdrifts towered over cars, reaching second-story windows in some places. What were once familiar routes through neighborhoods became disorienting mazes of snow. It was a scene both beautiful and daunting, the sheer power of nature on full display. The snow was relentless in its accumulation, burying everything in its path. Parks, once vibrant with greenery, were transformed into pristine white fields. Playgrounds stood deserted, swings frozen in midair, buried under a mountain of snow. The world seemed to hold its breath, blanketed in the silence of the storm. The blizzard had erased all sense of normalcy, replacing it with an otherworldly landscape. It was a stark reminder of the raw power of nature, its ability to reshape the familiar and leave us in awe of its untamed beauty. Thousands of homes were transformed into snowy prisons as the blizzard raged outside, creating an almost surreal landscape of white. People were trapped inside, unable to open their doors against the weight of the snow, which had piled up to several feet in some areas. The outside world seemed a distant memory, accessible only through the blurry images on TV screens and the anxious updates on the radio. The once bustling streets were now eerily silent, blanketed in snow. "I've never seen anything like it," said Sarah, a resident of a small town in upstate New York, her voice tinged with a mix of awe and fear. "The snow just kept coming and coming with no sign of stopping. We couldn't even open our front door. We were trapped, feeling the weight of the snow pressing against our homes." For many, the initial thrill of a snow day gave way to a growing sense of unease as the hours turned into days. The isolation began to set in, with the snow creating a barrier between neighbors and the outside world. The constant drone of the wind against the windows, the lack of power in many areas, and the dwindling supplies added to the anxiety. The howling wind seemed to echo the growing concern inside each home. "We lost power for almost 2 days," said John, a resident of a Chicago suburb, recounting the struggle to stay warm. "We were huddled together for warmth, melting snow for drinking water and trying to conserve our resources. It was scary, not knowing when it would end, and the uncertainty weighed heavily on everyone's minds. Despite the fear and uncertainty, stories of resilience and community spirit emerged, showcasing the strength of human connection. Neighbors helped each other dig out, sharing food, supplies, and offering comfort, turning a dire situation into a testament of solidarity. The shared experience of the blizzard, though frightening, also brought out the best in people, reminding us all of the power of community. Section 5. The statistics tell the story. The numbers tell the tale of the blizzard's fury. Over 20 states were affected, with some areas reporting snowfall totals exceeding 4 feet. The storm broke records that had stood for decades, etching its place in meteorological history. More than 10,000 flights were canceled across the country, leaving travelers stranded and frustrated. The economic impact of the storm was significant, with businesses forced to close and transportation networks brought to a standstill. Emergency services struggled to cope with the sheer volume of calls. Hospitals were inundated with cases of hypothermia and snow-related injuries. The National Guard was deployed in some areas to assist with rescue efforts and clear roads. The statistics paint a stark picture of the blizzard's impact. It was a storm of historic proportions, one that tested the limits of infrastructure and resilience. Yet, amidst the chaos and disruption, the human spirit shone through. Even as the blizzard raged, stories of hope and resilience began to emerge. Neighbors helping neighbors, strangers lending a hand, and first responders working tirelessly to ensure everyone's safety. Communities came together, sharing resources, offering shelter, and checking in on the elderly and vulnerable. The shared experience of the storm, while daunting, also fostered a sense of unity and compassion. Social media was flooded with stories of human kindness, images of people digging out cars, clearing sidewalks for the elderly, and delivering food to those in need. It was a reminder that even in the face of adversity, the human spirit could prevail. These acts of kindness, big and small, became beacons of hope in the midst of the storm. They served as a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming challenges, humanity's capacity for compassion and resilience could shine through. As the storm finally began to subside, the daunting task of digging out began. Armed with shovels, snowblowers, and sheer determination, people emerged from their homes, ready to tackle the mountains of snow that surrounded them. The spirit of community was palpable. Neighbors helped neighbors, sharing equipment and manpower. Strangers stopped to assist those struggling to free their cars from the grip of the snowdrifts. The sound of shovels scraping against pavement and the rumble of snowblowers filled the air, a symphony of collective effort. It was a slow and laborious process, but each shovelful of snow removed brought a sense of accomplishment, a step closer to normalcy. The shared experience of the blizzard had fostered a sense of unity, a recognition that everyone was in this together. And as the days passed and the snow began to melt, a sense of hope and resilience began to bloom, as bright and promising as the first signs of spring. The blizzard may be over, but the road to recovery is long and arduous. The task of clearing the massive snowdrifts, repairing damaged infrastructure, and restoring normalcy to daily life will take time, effort, and resources. The economic impact of the storm is significant, with businesses facing lost revenue, homeowners facing costly repairs, and transportation networks facing major disruptions. The emotional toll of the blizzard, on the other hand, is harder to quantify. Many people face days of isolation, fear, and uncertainty. The trauma of the experience, especially for those who lost power or experienced damage to their homes, will linger long after the snow melts. However, amidst the challenges, the spirit of resilience remains strong. Communities are coming together to support each other, rebuild their lives, and prepare for the future. The blizzard served as a stark reminder of the power of nature and the importance of preparedness. As the nation recovers, it's crucial to learn from this experience and take steps to mitigate the impact of future extreme weather events. Investing in infrastructure improvements, strengthening emergency response systems, and promoting individual preparedness measures are essential steps in building resilience against future weather-related challenges. The blizzard, while disruptive and devastating, also highlighted the strength of the human spirit. The acts of kindness, compassion, and resilience demonstrated during and after the storm serve as a reminder that even in the face of adversity, hope and unity can prevail. By learning from this experience, supporting each other, and working together, we can emerge from this challenge stronger and better prepared for the future.